Really got you on that one, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't know, dude. You're something else. I don't know. It's like you're just so Denver's just such an oddball, right? Like he gets in your head and makes you really overthink things, and he's really great at the psychological warfare. It's insane. Well,
Yeah, man.
only time will tell. But moving on, we have some NFL news, or well, not really news, rumors, and we don't want to dive too deep. But we've talked a little bit about stuff like this already, whether it was Carson Wentz, a little bit of the J.J. Watt stuff. I'm probably forgetting one or two, but Russell Wilson may or may not want out of Seattle. It's kind of yet to be truly determined at this point. Go ahead and just take it away. You're more into this than I am at the moment.
Okay, so this is a vague comparison to the Deshaun Watson situation. I think this is Russell saying, "Hey, I need some pieces on my offense to protect me. If you're not going to give them to me, I would prefer to be traded, but I'm still going to give you the time to maybe develop that for me." For Russell, I think it's more about like overall safety for him. He's a mobile quarterback, so he does get hit a lot, but his offensive line plays a huge factor in that. And the fact that the Seahawks offensive line over the past couple of years has not been great by any means, has caused a lot of issues for him. That's from my understanding of the situation. But this is him kind of saying, "Hey, if you're not able to do what I'm asking you to do as your franchise player, Super Bowl winning quarterback, and like MVP, all that stuff, I would like to be traded." And there's a rumored list of like 4 teams he asked to be traded to.
Before you
The
get into
first
that,
one here,
I'm gonna throw it
yep.
up. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So this first one is the Chicago Bears, which I'm a huge fan of. Like, that's my team, all in all seriousness. Like, I like the Chiefs because I'm here, but the Bears are where my heart lies. And if he went to the Bears, man, oh, dude, I don't know why he wants to go to Chicago. We don't have an offensive line. I don't know what he's thinking, and it's cold unless you want to be somewhere really cold.
I mean,
But
it rains on 200 days out of the year in Seattle anyway. It's kind of cold
that
up
doesn't
there
mean
too. It's just shitty
I mean,
weather
but
all
it's
around.
really cold. But Chicago was the first team one of the teams that he is asked to be looked at to trade to. But I don't know what the Bears could technically offer in that one. The next one is the Cowboys, which is interesting to me because like the Cowboys don't want to pay Dak, so I wondered if they would even maybe pay Russell. But they do have the offensive line. They have some key people over there. So with that, then there's the Raiders, and the Raiders have a really interesting situation because they do have Derek Carr still, and who's their backup?
Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota. Yes. So unless they're planning to trade Derek Carr, I don't see that one happening.
Before we move on to the last one, I do have to share a good meme. It probably could have fit in the best of Twitter, but it pertains specifically to the rumor that Russ would be happy going to Las Vegas.
Okay.
For the audio only listeners, the caption is, "Why the hell would Russell Wilson want to be a Raider?" And then the reason is a picture of Derek Carr standing in perhaps the most perfect pocket I've ever seen against the Saints from this last year, when the Saints are bringing, by my count, that's 8 defenders that the Saints are bringing. And somehow the Raiders have blocked it up actually perfectly. And so that's
Yeah, that's
something
kind
that
of
Russ
insane.
hasn't seen in I don't know how long.
I had to count those out. I just wanted to make sure you're
Yeah,
all the
one,
numbers. Yeah,
two,
that's
three,
a
four, five,
pretty
six. Yeah, that's pretty good.
That's a good pocket.
And the last team, go ahead.
Is the Saints. The Saints have a good offensive line. They have a good offense overall. And with Drew Brees really kind of maybe foreshadowing his retirement, it's a good spot for him to go. Overall, it's like championship contender right away. So that's the one that makes the most sense to me out of all of the teams. I think it's just a really good fit, and I think Sean Payton would really like to have maybe more of a more mobile quarterback to run his offense. Him and Taysom Hill would be a really fun dynamic for the Saints offense overall.
You think the Saints would try to keep Taysom Hill even further if they brought in somebody who's going to demand as much money as Russ would?
Yeah, I think they would keep him and then let go of Jameis.
Jabu!
Because Jameis went, eat that dub, man. Got to eat the dub.
So this is very interesting to me. As Denver mentioned, it feels really, and maybe it had started to degrade even before then, but I remember when Seattle traded Max Unger to the Saints, ironically enough. And that feels like the moment where it really started to go downhill. I believe that was right after they won the Super Bowl. Maybe I'm missing up my my timeline a little bit. It was around that time. Maybe it was after they had been to those 2 Super Bowls, but it's relatively recently, in the last, like 5 to 7 NFL years, right? It's not like his whole career he's had a bad offensive line. It was like the first half he had a pretty decent offensive line. That's the reason they went to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row, and it was probably a big reason why Russ was able to establish himself as one of the premier quarterbacks in the league. And now as he's continued to grow, he's kind of, made up for the deficiency on the offensive line by just being an absolute animal. But I can't blame him at all for wanting to not be hit 20 times a game.
I think that's a really great point. Is like, if you went and pulled up the stats of like overall like hits per game, Russell Wilson's either in the top 5 or maybe even number 1. He gets hit a ton. Overall, we'll see how this plays out. I do think Seattle's front office is competent enough to maybe get a few of the pieces he's asking for, because it's not like they have to go out and get a whole new offense. They just have to get a couple decent offensive linemen, probably some tackles, to keep him safe. So we'll see where this plays out. Overall, I think it might be a little too much right now, but maybe around like the NFL draft, if we haven't seen any movement, that's when we can expect the Russell Wilson news to really ramp up.
I think that's where you and I agree is I think the Seattle front office, it's hard to not love Russ, right? I mean, we just talked about him winning Man of the Year because he's the best dude in the NFL. The front office obviously loves him, and as you said, Seattle's been a competent franchise now for a while. So I don't think they just, not let him walk, but I don't think they just like throw him away. They're probably going to do whatever they can this season to try to make him happy, and if that ends up not working, then maybe we see something more. But I think in the short term, it was KJ Wright, the linebacker, that said it, right? Like, Russ isn't going anywhere. Like, I have a hard time seeing him play anywhere other than Seattle in 2021. Now, beyond that, obviously, I'm not a fortune teller, but I think in the short term, he's going to stick where he's at. But it's fun to think that maybe he could go somewhere else and change the situations.
Before we continue on with our next segment, I do have one question. It's kind of a spring-on question for you, buddy, because I didn't talk about it. How do you feel about Big Ben coming back?
That's a touchy subject. I love Big Ben to death. Like, as a Steelers fan, I know that maybe he's not the epitome of a perfect quarterback in any way, but he's he led us to 2 Super Bowls when I was kind of just getting into the sport, which was really fun to watch as a young fan. And he's been the face of the team that I love to root for the entire time I've been watching football. So the sentimentality of it is, yeah, it's hard to see Big Ben go. And I think he still has football left. The problem is, at the price tag that he has right now, the football's not worth it. And so that whole situation is just a little bit chaotic, to say the least.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your opinion on it.
Yeah.
That happened this week. So I wanted to know, hey, what was your thoughts as a Steelers fan? What the feeling was there? Another quarterback news.
Yeah, I mean, what it boils down to basically, I think the Steelers needed to go get a quarterback, in one of the last couple of years, and they certainly need to do it this year somehow, through the draft, through some sort of trade. They need to figure out the future, whether that means Big Ben starts this year and a quarterback that they draft, or if they bring in, this is totally hypothetical, but if Sam Darnold is up for sale or something like that. And I know the Steelers signed Dwayne Haskins. If somehow that works out, they need to somehow iron out at least a plan. They don't seem to have a plan beyond, apparently they want to see if Mason Rudolph can be a full-time starter in the NFL, and that does not sound like the wave to me. I'm just going to leave it at that. I have nothing against you, Mason. I've just seen all that I want to see as a fan. All right.
Nice way to put it.
I'm not out here trying to roast my boy Mason. It's some of it hasn't looked great, Some of it has not looked great.